today we're covering basically how to do a basic blog post. And I'm going to open up my screen so you guys can see what I'm working on. I'm going to mute everyone so that I don't hear any background noise. I'll open up the lines from time to time for questions. And if you want to shoot me a chat, you have a window to shoot me a note, and I'll try to look over there from time to time. We are going to go 45 minutes today max, because I have a meeting to get to that I need to be at 11:15, so we won't be doing a full hour today. Anyway, I'm going to get started. Welcome to the call, everyone. Okay. Actually, before I get started, can you guys all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you see a WordPress dashboard?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I am going to be talking about doing a blog post, and I'm going to jump into a site that we're working on that is not launched. We're in development, so I won't be hurting anybody's website with it. So first of all, when you do a blog post, the point of a blog post is to put out different information. It's basically a news flash, if you will. So you're sending out news information. It's not what I call evergreen. So it's not information that's going to stick around forever. Like, there's the 5 steps of buying a house, or the 5 steps of getting pre-qualified, or what is a short sale. Like that kind of information is sort of evergreen. It doesn't change. Now, what changes and what's noteworthy is a new house that's for sale on your street, or a new land development going in, or a new mall, or something new that you're reporting on, or last month's market statistics. Those are worthy of being a blog post. Now, they also, as you blog, that blogging information falls into different categories. So here's a website that I manage and write for. It's one of my sites that we have a whole, this thing is basically one big blogging site, but we have different categories: mortgage refinance, mortgage loan programs, real estate, buying a home, investing, leasing, foreclosure, debt negotiation, bankruptcy. So all of these are what are called categories. So when you're starting out in a blogging, starting out with your website and you're getting ready to blog, one of the things you want to keep in mind is when the topic of that specific blog post needs to be filed into a specific category. So categories you can think of as, like I've done here, these are just a big filing cabinet. And your reader is going to come to your site, or a reader on your site, if they're interested in reading what you have to say in your blog, they're going to be looking for a category. They're going to be looking for categories of information. So, Scottsdale mortgage rates, or Scottsdale financing news, or Scottsdale real estate news, Phoenix real estate news. All kinds of different categories you can set up. When you build your site, for the most part, you want to target having somewhere between 10 to 15 categories. Mostly, the information you're going to write about can fit into 10 to 15 different categories. This site that I'm pointing to here, there's a whole lot of information. This site covers a lot of different topics, so we have a lot more categories than 10 to 15. But in general, if you're asking about, how many categories should I have, 10 to 15 is a good number to start with. You don't have to name them all the time, right off the bat. But as you get into blogging, you're going to have, you'll think of some new category that you want to write about. That's when you start up a new category. So when you start out, this site doesn't have any blog posts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and I'm just new to blogging, so I want to come into my dashboard, and I want to mouse over posts and go into categories. When I go into categories, I'm going to set up some categories like short sales, sellers, general financing, buyers. I'm going to change this one to say real estate. And I'm going to change the slug to say real estate. So you want to have the slug, be representative of what the name of the category is. Okay. Typically, you're not going to have a parent category, but you could. Let's say you organize your categories by city. So you have Sun City Grand real estate, Sun City Grand financing, Sun City Grand happenings, Sun City, you could have one category called, or a parent category called Sun City Grand, but then you have subcategories underneath that. If that's the case, then you would select a parent category for that specific category. So if you're putting in a category with a parent, and this falls into buyers underneath real estate, and then that shows up as I just actually showed this before. It's going to show up looking something like this. These are subcategories of this parent category. Okay. So I'm not going to have a parent category on this. You can put in a description. It basically is some description of what this category is about, and I'm now going to go save it. So now I have this updated category on here called real estate. All right, now I want to get into doing a new blog post. So I am going to open up a new blog. By the way, lots of times when I'm moving around WordPress inside a dashboard, and I multitask a lot when I'm working in here. So if you right-click on a tab and open a link in a new tab, you can actually have multiple pages inside your dashboard open. So if you're doing linking between one page and another, or you're doing different things between pages, you can have multiple pages open. It makes your productivity work. It makes work easier as you go along. You'll figure that out for yourself. So this specific property, or this specific blog post, I'm going to write about. Actually, I'm going to open it up. What's a blog topic somebody wants to talk about today? That's a real question. Someone shoot me an answer. Hello?
I'm taking notes, so.
No answer. Okay. So I'm going to say, doggone it. There. I'm going to do something related to buying a foreclosure HUD home, for what that's worth. We're actually not going to do this as a real, we're not actually going to spend the time to write this blog post. Now, when you're getting ready to write a post, when you're just starting out your site, you want to be pretty intentional about, the titles that you're using, because your site doesn't have a lot of power in the search engines if it's a newer site. So you want to be intentional about the type of title you're writing. What you don't want to write, I'm going to write it down here, is you don't want to write great deals for everyone with HUD. Something like that. Like, this specific title doesn't have anything to do with what you really like. It doesn't have any weight in the search engines for getting you found for the type of customer you're looking for. Great deals for everyone with HUD. Well, what does that mean? How is that relevant to your site? So you want to get to train yourself to look up keywords for your titles to give yourself a chance to get found for specific types of traffic and specific types of customers coming to your site. So you want to go into Google, and I'm going to do so that you can go find it yourself. So Google keyword tool, and I'm going to drop down in here. I'm going to go look for it. So Google AdWords keyword tool. Guys want to go find this in Google and bookmark it. It's a great tool to use for doing real high level keyword research. So I want to look at buying foreclosure, or I'm going to say buying HUD foreclosures. And they have a little captcha here. If you're not signed into if you don't have a WordPress or a Google Analytics account, then they're going to give you this thing to fill out. I have several Google Analytics accounts, but I'm not logged in yet. This is typically how most of you will show up. And I think it's ICOTA. It's kind of hard to read it sometimes. And of course that wasn't right. ERSTARYMEYE. Let's try it again. Okay. So I am searching now for buying HUD foreclosures. And I am looking at the keyword research that I'm doing. And there's a couple things to look at here. One is, are you getting search results at all? So global monthly searches, local monthly searches. Local is United States based, global is world based. So typically HUD homes, people in Europe aren't going to be looking at HUD home searches. So mostly you're going to find that global and monthly, or global and local, are typically the same. So now I'm coming in here buying HUD foreclosures, HUD foreclosures, HUD foreclosures. So what this is saying here is you have competition, global monthly, local monthly. Where you really kind of want to focus what you're looking at is it's sort of an art of trial and error. These aren't exact numbers; these are relative numbers. They're not exactly, there wasn't 2.2 million searches last month for foreclosures. It's close to that. Google doesn't actually say this is exactly what the numbers are, but you can get a sense that for the search foreclosures, there were a lot of people looking for that specific term last month. So what you want to do is kind of slide down here. Chances are, with a highly competitive term, which is what this is telling you. So what this is giving you an indication is in pay-per-click. So let me just go to pay-per-click really quick. We're going to pull up foreclosure. Now foreclosures, when they say highly competitive, what they're pointing to is the advertising for foreclosures. So foreclosure.com, this section here and these ads over here, they're talking about what's the competition for this specific word in the Google Ad Network. So it's not only in the search results here, but it's AdSense and different places where that advertising will show up across the Google AdSense network and in search results. So people are paying a lot of money for coming up for foreclosures or foreclosure. There's also 250 million websites optimized to come up for foreclosures. And when I mean optimized, I mean they have the word foreclosure or foreclosures in their site such that Google could find it, and that word's basically attributed to their website or associated with their website in one way or another. So 250 million websites for the word foreclosure. So here's where you start looking at keywords. Do I think that I have the power in my website to come up for a term called foreclosure or foreclosures all by itself? The answer is no. none of us on this call, even myself, with the types of websites I've worked with and all the writing I've ever done, I don't have a chance of coming up for the word foreclosure in the top 10 websites in the organic search results. So I'm not even really going to try to look. Okay? So, or I'm not really going to try to optimize this specific blog post for that. Now, going back to my keyword tool, now I can start looking at other options. So I'm going to add the word foreclosures. Oops. And redo my search. And there you'll see, again, foreclosures, 2.4 or 2.2 million searches, very high competition for buying HUD foreclosures, okay? Now, what these other numbers can tell you, so where you really want to look is highly competitive terms, mean there's lots of websites that are optimized for that. The only way to really tell how many, and also what they're paying in the search engine. Now, I haven't looked at the term foreclosure in quite a long time, but this is, as you guys can imagine, it's a highly competitive term. I mean, I can't actually remember seeing, that many high-level competitive terms for foreclosure or for any term that I've ever looked up where the competition's almost all high. I don't see any low for any variation of foreclosure. So what that's telling me is I might not want to mess with the word foreclosure in a blog post if I'm expecting to get traffic or have a chance to get traffic out of it. So part of the reason why you're putting blog posts into your site is to get traffic and exposure in the search engines. Well, I'm probably not going to come up for foreclosure listings if that's what I title this as. Now, I could come up for, so buying a foreclosure HUD home is pretty generic. And most of us here are based in Arizona. I do see one of our clients in here from Pennsylvania who's on the call. So right now, the way I'm writing this is buying a foreclosure HUD home. If I publish this the way this is, I'm competing at a national level for HUD homes, foreclosure homes, buying a foreclosure, buying a HUD home, any variation of this on a national scale. I'm not going to rank at all. I'm just going to blanketly say I'm never going to rank for buying a foreclosure HUD home, whatever combination of this is, because my site isn't nearly as strong as some of these other foreclosure.com. I'm never going to beat that one out. Okay? I'm never going to beat some of these other websites off the top. Home Finder, they're big. Realestate.aol, they're pretty big. Zillow's pretty big for me. Portal, the HUD portal, I'm not going to beat those guys. So I can write the article and put it in my site, but I better not have any expectations as a website owner of competing or ever getting traffic to this site or to this blog post from organic search traffic. I might get people reading it once they get to my site, but I'm not going to get traffic to it. Okay? So it's something you need to think about as a site owner putting traffic into putting blog posts into your site is, hey, I wrote a great blog post, I wrote a great article, but did I really set myself up to win to get traffic because I left this buying a foreclosure HUD home? Well, where? Nationally, in what city? Okay, so that should tell you a little bit about how to narrow something down. Buying a foreclosure HUD home in Phoenix. Okay, now I've separated myself out into a more geographical area to get myself potentially found in the search engines. I have a little better chance. Now you could take this a little lower to say something like buying a home. I live in the Park Promenade in Chandler, so I'm going to say buying Park Promenade in Chandler or something like that. Right now, buying a foreclosure HUD home in Park Promenade, Chandler. Now I have a real specific title for what I'm writing about. Now I can take an article that somebody's written about buying a HUD home and go what we call repurpose it and rewrite it so it's specific to a specific area that I'm trying to target or farm or get people into my website because that's where I like to do business. So I can repurpose an article, right? One of the questions we get from our clients a lot is, I don't know what to write about. And the question I ask often is, well, how long have you been in business? And a lot of I've been in business 10 years or 5 years or even a year. Well, if you've seen any transactions or you've dealt with the public at all, you have stuff to write about. You have opinions. You see things on the news. Like some of you know that I spent 12 years as a mortgage guy, and I got very interested in watching the news during the market crash back in 2007 because I loved, and earlier 2005 2007 I loved watching other mortgage guys advertise on TV the no cost mortgage. I loved it. There was so much to write about the no cost mortgage advertising. It was just fun to write about. Anyway, you have an opinion about all kinds of things related to real estate. Those are all blog post ideas for your website. So I've now buying a foreclosure home, HUD home in Park Promenade, Chandler. Now, notice I haven't hit publish and I haven't hit save draft. But one of the things that's great about WordPress from an SEO, search engine optimization perspective, is the way we set it up is this permalink automatically forms when you publish your blog post based on what you put in your headline. Okay? So what this is going to do, actually I'm going to save this as a draft to show you what happened. So if you notice, buying a foreclosure HUD home in Park Promenade, this permalink will basically model after what you put in the headline. So from a search engine optimization perspective, if WordPress is set up correctly, if the permalink, these are called permalinks, if that setting is set up correctly in your site, and the way we build our sites, we set it up so that this relationship works where you don't have to really think much about this permalink. You can go in and take out stuff like in and like these are called stop words. They're words that Google and the search engines don't really pay attention to. They don't pay attention to in and the and ad and are, they. There's just certain words that they don't give much credence to. They mostly focus on the main words in a in the URL, actually in the title as well. So I have them in here because of my reader looking at them, but the search engines don't necessarily care about that word or this word. Okay. So back to the keyword search tool. Now, when I look at words, there's two mediums. I was looking at low. Now, what I'll look at something is, here I have high competition. That means, I'm thinking that the word foreclosure and HUD foreclosure, that's a highly competitive term because of the industry that we're in. Now, does that mean that that's the number of websites that are optimized? So I'm going to go out here and look. So when I click this, all right, Google search. Okay, so it opened it up. Now, if you notice, 6.4 million. Still a very large number of websites for me to compete against. If I'm a brand new website or I'm just new to blogging, still very high number to try to compete against. I probably wouldn't go after buying a HUD foreclosure as my main keyword unless I added something like in Phoenix. So now what I just found out was, wow, that actually added a lot more websites. So again, might not necessarily optimize for something like that. So it becomes an art of playing around with what am I trying to get people to my site for? How many people are optimized for it? And then looking through here and kind of looking at what's the competition, Trulia, Phoenix.gov. You know, I'm gonna have a tough time getting into the top 10 results for those kinds of searches. You know, it might make me say, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing HUD foreclosures, or it might mean that I change the focus of my title a bit. Still write about foreclosures, but what are some other ways of, you know, REO or some other names of things to call this title or article. All right, I'm going to stop here and answer questions because I know you guys are chomping at the bit to ask me something. All right, any questions? No questions? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
Hi, this is Mike Rizzo.
Yes.
Question.
Hey, Mike.
If you use Park Promenade, like you were using in the example, and if you come up with, I didn't do it, so I don't know, but a lot of times when you narrow it down in the keyword search, you come up with no results for the keyword that you typed in, keywords that you typed in. Can you speak to that a little bit? Is that because we're too narrow on our search, on our keywords?
Yeah, so if I just, it's a good question, Mike, because actually, if you notice, I'm going to mute you guys again. So if you notice, we've narrowed this down, buying a HUD home or a HUD foreclosure Park Promenade Chandler, and we've gotten it down to 486,000, okay? Now I've got something that I can compete against, because I have a good opportunity. 486,000 isn't a huge number for me to try to crack for getting my website found, especially if I have a website that's about Chandler. Okay, I have a real good shot at competing for this specific term. So now if I go to, let's say, Shannon Street. Okay, I've gotten this narrowed down now to 39,000. Okay, I could keep going until I got to a no results, response like you're talking about, Mike. The point you're going to get to when you do a search result and you get no results. You could do a couple. You can think about it in a couple ways. If you have a great blog post, or you think it's a great blog post and you want to publish it, and you've gotten no results here, the chances are that if anyone actually types that in someday, you're going to be the top result. Okay, so there's something to be said about if you put in a lot of content into your site that has very low results, and so you're actually talking here. Let me unmute you really quick, Mike Rizzo. Mike, are you there?
Unmuted. Yes, yeah, I was talking about the keyword tool.
Right here.
So, yeah. So if you're using Park Promenade in there, do you get any results for Park Promenade?
Gotcha. Like if I do here, right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's do Park Promenade. So no results. So the question
so
there
I guess
is.
My question is if you write an article about that, and does that mean that no one is searching on foreclosures Park Promenade?
Well, what that actually means is it's not statistically relevant to have you come up or have Google take, or publish data on that. So yeah, people are searching for foreclosures park promenade, but not enough for them to statistically acknowledge it. Or so you're going to go from a range of no one searching to it's not enough for them to register it on a radar screen. But if your website's about Chandler and you write an article about foreclosures park promenade, or you put a page on your site and can get some relevant content into it for foreclosures park promenade, the opportunity for you is actually great in the long run in when we pull in a term called the long tail keyword or long tail search term, which means there's a lot of searches that are done that we never ever optimize for, but if we have that combination of keywords in our website somehow, we have a greater chance of coming up. And the longer the longer this search term is, the theory is, the more focused a searcher is in getting information. So if they type this in, and I'm this first listing, then I have a shot at getting that traffic, and statistically they're going to be a higher converter, because they're really going through the effort of searching for exactly what they want versus somebody who just types in buying a HUD home and they hope they get, local information from Google based on their IP address and, all that. So does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, I just don't know where to exactly cut it off. I mean, where there's enough searches to write the article, get found, not write the article because there's nobody searching.
Well, you're going to get found if you did something like that. Okay.
If someone searches, right?
Well, if someone searches exactly for that, chances are you're going to get found for it, right? If someone drops out one of these words, they search for that. Okay, notice the results changed and we also went up. If your site is, relevant, has some power, has a little bit of activity on it, and it's about Chandler, you're probably going to get ranked for that. Okay, that's where the great thing about blog posts is you write it and you move on to the next one. So I wouldn't get too caught up in is this going to rank or not. If you're keeping your focus narrow, because the more narrow you stay, or the narrower you stay, in the long run, you're going to pick up better traffic than if you go more broad. I'm going to get a call from you in a year saying, I wrote all these great articles about buying a HUD foreclosure, but I'm not getting any traffic. And I'm going to say, all right, let's look at what you did with your blog posts, and we're going to find you did all these real broad, generic topics. And I'm going to say, well, Mike, you're writing to a national audience with your East Valley specific website. You're not going to get traffic that way. Okay? So narrow your topics down, narrow your titles down to a more specific regional area, and you'll have better results over time. And then, again, keep in mind, this is one blog post. It took me 10 minutes to put it out there, and it stays up there for life, basically. So I move on to the next one. Maybe I don't want to write my next article in a couple of weeks about buying a HUD REO home in Park Promenade Chandler or something like that. And then you would, how can I get away with writing something like that? As well, now I'm going to explain what an REO is or something, or foreclosure and REO, or there's the same type of word, but they mean different things to different crowds. They say different things to different people. That you can talk about them differently. REO isn't spelled the same as foreclosure, so you could cover different angles while you're still trying to get the same type of traffic to your site for that. So let me open it up. And are you still there, Mike?
Yeah.
Any additional thoughts or comments on that?
Well, is there a rule of thumb on the numbers? In other words, I mean, basically, you don't go after high or medium because we're talking about thousands and thousands of websites or millions even. So you're looking for the low competition with an average number.
It's kind of an artsy thing of how powerful is your site, how many websites are actually optimized for this versus HUD foreclosure, Park Promenade. Okay, now we're down to 14 million for now we're down to 800,000. Okay, so there are people looking for this term, or there may or may not be people looking for this term. We probably aren't going to get useful information out of here, but I could take HUD, combine that with my area, and have a better shot at coming up than if I just did HUD or if I just did Park Promenade. Combining keywords and putting those into titles is a good way of getting that specific article found and indexed. So you're looking at high competition or medium competition. I try to go to medium to low, unless I look at a high and I click over HUD foreclosure listings and I only find 800,000 websites optimized and there's a fair amount of searches going to it. I might throw in an article that takes a high competitive term but has low number of sites ranked for it. So it really becomes kind of it's kind of an art form. Really, you want to try to get to, as you're doing searches and trying to come up with a keyword to work with, is pop it into here and see what kind of websites are optimized or set up to come up for that term. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. How many times should you mention your keywords in your article itself?
Getting into writing the content, writing the article, you want to have, and I'll cover a little bit of that right now. The specifics of your article, you want to go for about 300 words, 350 words is kind of a sweet spot. Nothing shorter than, say, 100 to 150 words really should be used if you want to, if you really want Google to rank you. Okay, anything shorter than that, you're not going to get a lot of weight in the search engines because there's not enough content on there to, Google kind of looks at it and says, well, is there anything of significance? Can you say anything in significance that's useful to people in less than 100 words? The answer is probably no. But 300 words, I would go. There used to be there's a term out there called keyword density, and 3 to 5% was a good number for keyword density. Nowadays, they say don't pay attention too much to keyword density, but in a 300-word article, I'd mention your keyword 2-3 times. Once right in the beginning. If you're going to mention it again in the middle and then tie it in at the very end, like to consider buying a home in buying a HUD REO home in Park Promenade Chandler, fill out the form below, or something like that might be a good way to tie up your HUD, this specific article. And you also want to put in other terms that are related to buying a HUD REO home, like buying a foreclosure, or HUD REO homes are a great way to find a deal or get a deal, etc. So there's multiple ways to you want to put in what are called relevant or related keywords as well. Throw in 3 or 4 of those. What you don't want to do is every sentence put in HUD home, HUD home, HUD home, HUD home, HUD home, because Google's going to go, all right, they're just trying to spam us on this specific term. Okay. Sort of the last thing that I'm going to cover today. It's about 10:45 my time, so I'm going to need to wrap this up. We're going to continue in not actually the first week of August is when I'm going to be back in the office to be able to do another webinar. So I will be doing one the first week of August. I think it's August 8th. So put it on your calendar for August 8th, 10 o'clock in the morning, Arizona time, where I'm going to pick up this topic again. But you write your content, and then you're going to select which category you want it to fall into. And then once you select it, and don't put it into all the categories, pick a category to shove it into, and then you're going to hit publish. And then go out to your website and look for it. So some of you might or might not have categories as a widget set up in your sidebar. You'd really want to go quickly look at widgets and look in your sidebar and look for categories, blog categories. If it's not set up, you can basically move it from here over to here. Typically everyone's set up with a click and drag. If you have problems with that, or you have questions about how to get it installed into your primary sidebar, give us a shout. We'll help you out. The other thing is, if you don't have anything, let's say you have categories over here, but you don't have any articles in those categories, they won't show up. So you might be looking for it on your main website, but you won't find it because you don't have any blog posts in those categories. So I'm going to open up the lines really quick again. The question I have is, do you guys feel comfortable enough with going out and trying to do your own blog post at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Feel free to fire off questions to me via email. I'm leaving Saturday to go back to Pennsylvania for a couple of weeks, so I'll be gone. But I'm not going off the grid, so I'll be able to get you an answer. Just might not be immediate.
I have a quick question.
Yes, this is Kathy.
Yes.
Okay.
Categories and the subcategories. If there is an article that you put into a subcategory, then when potential people on your website are clicking on the category, is it showing up for both the sub and the main category then?
If you don't,
that particular article?
If you don't put it in that specific category, then no, it's not going to show up in the parent category.
Even if the sub is underneath that specific category? If I was to put it in a subcategory,
yeah, so
will it show up in the main category as well as the subcategory?
If you don't assign it, it won't. Because even though it's a subcategory, it's categories are sub, and there's still a specific file folder that you're sticking it into. So it's not unless something's changed in how WordPress offers that information or categorizes it. Like when I go into here and I look at first time home buyer, see, it's not assigned. So this article is in the first time home buyer category, but it was, if you noticed, it was in the subcategory of mortgage purchase, and it's not listed in that category.
Okay.
All right. So it's not. You're not going to find it in the main category. Okay.
Okay.
So
why then would you not want to click more than one if one category per article if it really pertains to a main category as well as a subcategory?
Well, the reason why, I mean, it becomes an issue of how many different, like if you did it occasionally, it's not a big deal. But what you're going to do is you're ending up with this specific information, right, on multiple pages. So you get into what's called a duplicate content area, where you're shoving in the same content on multiple pages. And if you do it a lot, the search engines might ding you for that versus not putting it on multiple categories. I mean, remember that the point of this isn't to make, I mean, a lot of people do it to shove it into all these things to make their site look bigger. So it makes it look important. And that's not, I know that's not what you're asking. Okay?
Yeah,
but the net effect of it,
I'm thinking more from a potential buyer perspective. If they want information on a particular community, they may not want to have to click 4 different categories to see all the blog articles written about that community. That's why I was asking that.
But okay, so you might have Sun City Grand here, and then some subcategories underneath it about Sun City Grand, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, maybe just information, maybe about real estate, maybe about sales, whatever. But they all pertain to Sun City Grand, but I may have subcategories for some of those specific areas because people are targeting specific areas, like they may want to know sales. And so they go into that subcategory, but then that's also something that somebody just looking at Sun City Grand in general might want. I guess I just am not understanding why you would get dinged for that if it's all within your website, and I don't know.
It's not necessarily something that you're going to get too whacked for too much. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it too much, Kathy. What I'm trying to say is don't assign every blog post to every category.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're going to do it, you might say sales and Sun City Grand and Sun City Grand. Yeah, assign it to those 2 categories and call it a day. But don't try to click it into, if you're not talking Sun City Grand, but you're talking a variety of other categories, what people used to do to try to make their sites look bigger is they'd assign things to multiple categories. The other thing is if you are cross categorizing things where you run into things from user experiences, I've seen this article over here, right? So now you have a user who's seen calculating your housing budget in 4 different categories. Okay, they might from the other side of the thing say, well, doesn't this person have anything? Like, I've already read this. Why am I seeing it again? So there's a user experience that you're worried about, or you should be worried about. Is, hey, I've already read this article, but it's showing up in these other categories too, and it kind of makes you look like it can be detrimental to the user experience by multiple assigning a blog post to multiple categories. So it's just a fine line of what service are you providing for your reader by assigning it to multiple categories when can it be really categorized into 1, maybe 2. So
okay.
All right, I gotta end the call. I gotta get myself in my car and get out of here. I will, like I said, be available by email, and I will get this out on our YouTube channel for you guys to review in the future. Thanks a lot, and I'll catch you guys later.
Thank you.
Yep.